After invading Ukraine in February, Russia curtailed gas supplies to Europe, sparking an energy crisis that sent the price of gas soaring. That led to fears of energy shortages and eye-watering bills for consumers. It's built up for about, I would say, 5 to 6 weeks, says Augustin Prate, Vice President of Energy and Commodity Markets at Kayrros, one of many observers who has watched the situation unfold. He and colleagues track ships via AIS, Automatic Identification System, signals, which are broadcast by vessels to receivers, including on satellites. It's a big story, he says. The huge tankers are waiting. Off the coasts of Spain, Portugal, the UK, and other European nations lie dozens of giant ships packed full of liquefied natural gas, LNG. Cooled to roughly minus 160 degrees Celsius for transportation, fossil fuel is in very high demand. Yet the ships remain at sea with their prized cargo. So why are ships loaded with LNG just hanging around Europe, exactly? The answer, as you might have guessed, is a little complicated. Someone else who has watched the accumulation of vessels is Fraser Carson, a research analyst at Wood Mackenzie. This month, he counted 268 LNG ships on the water worldwide, noticeably above the one-year average of 241. Of those currently at sea, 51 are in the vicinity of Europe. He explains that European nations plunged into a gas-buying spree over the summer that aimed to fill onshore storage tanks with gas. This was to ensure that heaps of fuel would be available to cover energy needs this winter. The original target was to fill storage facilities to 80% of their total capacity by November 1st. That target has been met and exceeded, far ahead of schedule. The latest data suggests storage is now at nearly 95% in total. Imported LNG has played a key role in getting Europe to this point. But as LNG continues to be brought ashore, demand for facilities that heat the liquid and turn it back into gas remains high. There aren't very many such plants in Europe, partly because the continent has long relied on gas delivered via pipelines from Russia instead. So that's one reason why LNG ships are waiting around. Some are queuing for access to regasification terminals. In the meantime, Germany and the Netherlands have invested in new regasification facilities. Some, rapidly built using converted LNG ships pinned to docksides, are expected to become operational within months. On top of this bottleneck, less gas is getting used up in Europe than it otherwise might at present because the weather has been very mild well into October. European gas prices had soared above €340, $332.60 per megawatt hour in late August, but this week dipped below $100 for the first time since Russia cut supplies. Before the war, the price had been as low as €30. Russia, which supplies a large portion of natural gas to Europe, cut gas supplies as a response to sanctions after the country's war with Ukraine. The real question is what happens next. With gas secured for the coming weeks at least, the price of the commodity in Europe has begun to fall. Benchmark gas prices in Europe have fallen dramatically since August, but are still more than twice the price they were this time last year. However, further disruptions to supply and very cold winter months could potentially change the picture yet again. There's also the global situation to consider. Heightened demand for LNG imports in Europe has boosted competition for gas around the world. Countries such as Pakistan and Bangladesh, which rely on LNG but have less financial leverage in the market, have been stung by the current situation. In general, some LNG that might traditionally have gone to Asia has this year sailed to Europe. It has effectively been a huge game of musical chairs, says Mr. Half. But some Asian nations, notably China, Japan, and South Korea, which also use a lot of LNG, will likely seek significant imports in the colder months, potentially fueling competition between continents. For Corey Grindal, Chief Operating Officer and Head of Worldwide Trading at LNG producer Cheniere, what's happening in the LNG market is a very short-term phenomenon. What happens tomorrow depends, in varying degrees, on the war in Ukraine, the weather, the rise of renewables, global demand for gas, and hundreds of ships full of LNG sailing either east or west. With this new development, Europe would have less pressure about the energy crisis, but the question remains for how long? Is this hope for Europe or just a delusion? Let us know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.